What is up, guys? I'm Cash with CashedOutCars, and this is the complete guide to repainting Steelies. Let's get started.
Prep work is everything with a project like this, and the first step is to pressure wash your wheels to get all that dirt and grime off. Next, it's time to remove your wheel weights. Mark them so you know exactly where they'll go when you put them back on. Once everything was marked with a paint marker, I used a wheel weight plier to remove the wheel weights. Once that's all set, it's time to start removing rust and smoothing out the surface of the wheel. I used a brush to start removing some of the loose flakes of rust. Then I used some sandpaper to remove and smooth some of the bigger chunks of rust. This will remove the majority of the rust, which will lead to a much nicer final product. It's also important that you get inside all the different curvatures of the wheel and inside the lip. To do this, I used a pencil to help push the sandpaper up against the rim. You could check your progress by blowing off all the dust with an air gun. I wouldn't recommend breathing this dust. Once you're happy with the amount of rust removed and your wheels are looking nice and smooth, you can move on to the next step. Grab a scuff pad and scuff the entire surface that you're going to paint on the wheel. This will remove imperfections and give the paint something to stick to. Once everything is scuffed, use a blowgun to remove all that dust that you just created. Once that's all set, use a cleaner such as some denatured alcohol to remove all the oils and dust that may be left on the surface of the wheel. Now it's time to start masking so you don't get any paint on your tires. Use masking tape and go around the outside of the wheel, slightly overlapping the lip. Once you've gone around the wheel, tuck it under the lip using something like a nylon knife. This works great to tuck in the tape as close to the wheel as you can so you don't get any paint on your tire. Before using newspaper to mask off the rest, I did another ring of masking tape just to be safe. Before doing any more masking, I applied some rust treatment to the wheels. This prevents the rust from starting up again under the paint and ruining the job. I'd actually recommend doing this before you mask off your wheels and before you clean them. Make sure you do a nice thorough job here, as it will ensure that your paint job will last a long time. Next, use masking tape to mask off your valve stems. Then use masking tape and newspaper to cover the rest of the tire. Make sure you cover everything, even the sides, so no paint or overspray get on the tires. Once everything's masked off, you're ready to start the fun part, the painting. Start with primer and hit the wheels from the back side first. This will ensure that the edges of all the holes get covered, leaving no exposed metal. Once that's all set, it's time to hit the front. Make sure you spray from all different angles so you ensure that every single surface of the wheel is covered. Also, make sure you don't go too heavy and create drips. I like to do quick bursts of paint, keeping the can in motion at all times. This will lead to a very nice finish. Then let the primer dry. Once that's all set, use a scuff pad again to scuff up the surface and remove all those imperfections. I used a less aggressive scuff pad this time to avoid going through the primer. Then use a blowgun to get off that dust you just created. Next, use a light cleaner to get off the rest of the dust and to get rid of any oils that will make the paint not lay right. Now it's time for the paint. I'm using Rust-Oleum metallic spray paint. Just like when you did the primer, spray a coat on the back side first. Once that's done, it's time to start painting the face of the wheel. If you're inside like I am, make sure that the area is very well ventilated. Use the same techniques that I talked about while spraying the spray paint that I described while using the primer. This means keeping the can in motion to avoid runs and drips. Make sure that you evenly spray the wheel from all angles to ensure that you get proper coverage. This will lead to a very nice finish. Here's the wheel with the first coat of paint all dried. Once the first coat's all dry, use the same techniques to apply a second coat. Here's the wheel after the second coat of paint is all dry. I ended up doing 3 coats. On the third coat, I went a little bit heavier but made sure that the paint didn't drip or run. Also, I took extra care to make sure that I got really good coverage on all the surfaces of the wheel. Here's my wheels after the final coat of paint has been applied and dried. Once all your paint's all dry, it's time to start unmasking the wheel. Start by removing the newspaper. Then take the masking tape off of the valve stem. Here's the wheel outside in the sunlight. Next, it's time to put your wheel weights back on. I primed and painted mine using the same techniques that I described earlier so that they'd match the wheel. Once everything's all dry, put them back onto your wheels. Make sure that you put the wheel weights back on the same place that they were before to ensure that your wheels stay balanced. Use a small hammer like this wheel weight hammer to get the weights back on. It's a good idea to use something like cardboard to put between the hammer and the weight to ensure that the fresh paint doesn't crack. If you did end up chipping the paint in any way, spray a little bit into a can and just brush it on. This will make sure everything is sealed up, looks good, and won't rust. Once my touch-ups were dry, I applied a couple coats of wax. Once your wax is all buffed off, your wheels are done and are ready to be put on your car. Here are some shots of my freshly painted wheels on my 2007 Volkswagen Rabbit. Well, that's it for this video. I hope it was helpful and that your painted steel wheels look awesome. If you have any questions, leave them below. Also, don't forget to subscribe. As always, thanks for watching.